Dr. Santos Barrera from World Coffee Research will explore why agricultural innovations are required to meet the challenges of climate change, how new collaborative innovation models can create the tools we need, and discuss how such models are applied to advance coffee breeding efforts to prepare us for what lies ahead. Mr. Barrera? Thank you.
Can you hear me, everyone? Thank you. Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Santos Barrera, for those who don't know me. I'm a research scientist at World Coffee Research, basically plant breeding and genomics. So today, we have hearing about, climate change and crisis. And I don't want to start this presentation with the word crisis, but I want to give awareness that the crisis is already now. So today I'm going to talk about how can we tackle this crisis, the climate change crisis, from the innovation point. So this morning we hear from Doug. He presented some photos of what is climate change looking like in the real world, and he presented really nice photos. So here I'm backing up those photos with data. You can see here in this slide that the temperatures have been rising since 1980s in both. I don't know if you are familiar with the ENSO phenomenon or El Niño, La Niña. So El Niño is when you have drought stress, and La Niña is when you have high rainfall patterns. What you can see in the left side of the slide is that the temperatures have been rising in both phenomena. So meaning that the temperatures are basically getting hotter and hotter everywhere. On the right side of the slide, it is a real-time image of the world that was taken a few days ago. And you can see that the temperatures are even more extreme in the tropic and subtropic. And guess where the coffee is grown? In the tropic and subtropic. So definitely, coffee is highly affected by the climate change, specifically by drought and heat stressors. So, but what does that mean for a producer? If I am a producer, why do I have to care about drought and heat? It's basically because these stressors are making the crop, not only coffee, many other crops that are grown in the tropical areas, failure. So there is less production, less quality, and of course the growers have to think about how can they overcome these challenges. So they have to invest in new technologies, which means that there will be less production, with less income, and of course profitability. And you guys care about supply. You think about, we need coffee, we need high quality coffee. So if farmers cannot supply high volumes of coffee with high quality, there is always a supply disruption. So we have heard always about shortage in supply, and there is a rising in demand, and you guys want more coffee. So we need to think, how can we solve these problems? How can we solve these challenges that we have experiencing? And to really go a little bit more in deep, and so you guys can understand where coffee is grown, and how the limited window of coffee, the conditions where coffee is grown. In this slide, I'm presenting the key parameters. So just key parameters to think about. For instance, the optimal range of temperatures to grow coffee is between 18 to 22 Celsius degrees. So it is a very short window of temperatures. What happens if we have 24, 25 Celsius degrees? So what it leads is a reduction in production and, of course, reduction in quality. And that's what we care, isn't it? We want more coffee, we want better quality coffee. But even more, to be more specific, coffee requires specific growing rainfall patterns. It requires a period of rainfall followed by a period of drought. First drought, than rainfall. But the drought is very, very short. It's basically, it requires around 1,200 millimeters of water across the year, and a short period of drought of 3 months to induce flowers and, of course, to get coffee. If we don't have that specific pattern, we are in trouble, and that's where we are facing. In many regions in Latin America, in Africa, they don't have this pattern because now climate is so unpredictable. And finally, so once again, it's a short dry season period. So what I want to aware is that coffee is grown in the specific climate conditions, and climate change is highly affecting coffee. Well, so what happened if we do nothing? Basically, we will face a cascade of challenges that we are already seeing. So we will face a cascade of problems, and we sit and wait for the climate change to make it more challenging. We will basically drown. But if we do something, we need to think about how to change the whole system, how to change the whole production system. So we are preparing for the future, and we are not waiting for the climate change to drown our coffee or to drown us. In that case, we think about the innovation, how we can do innovation. We always think about, okay, if we have drought stress, if we have hotter temperatures, we are facing new diseases, new pests. So in this slide, what you can see is what you experienced many years ago. That was a rust issue, where many of the cultivars were susceptible to rust. And that's what the farmers were growing. But what we need to do is we need to think about what is coming. We are not only facing rust, we are facing other problems. We are experiencing new pests and diseases because of the climate change. And we need to go on the left side of this slide to have healthier crops, to have healthier coffee. So to do that, we have multiple ways. And one of the ways is we care about yield, but we find better yields with varieties, okay? And why varieties matter. So right now, if you think about production, you see in this slide that the actual yields in any crop, this is applied for not only coffee, for many other crops. If you have the current yields, the yields are still staggered. There's not really a production or coffee that is growing. We need to do technology, and technology can be from two sides. One, from agronomy. So agronomy is important. We care about agronomy, and many countries have invested a lot in agronomy and have done research in agronomy. So better agronomy, better varieties is what I hear sometimes. Better coffee. But if we only think about agronomy, agronomy is a very local investment. So the conditions in Costa Rica are not similar to the conditions in other countries. So research in agronomy is very local and very focused. What we are now thinking is about providing better varieties. That with better agronomy, we can tackle the climate problems. So if we get better varieties, we are going to do multiple things, not just getting better yields. We will first increase the profitability because we will have higher yields. If we have higher quality, of course, they will get better pay, no? And of course, if we have varieties that are resistant to pests and diseases and tolerant to drought and heat stress, you will have more climate resilient varieties. We heard this morning about deforestation. How can we tackle deforestation? Basically, we can tackle that problem from developing new varieties. So if we have better varieties, we will use less agrochemicals because we will have varieties that are resistant to diseases. And of course, we will use less land. And that's what we heard this morning. If we don't if we don't think about the new regulations, how we are overcoming those new regulations is by using less land. If we want to use less land, we have to use varieties that yield more. And of course, thinking always about climate change, reducing gas emissions. Well, so I'm going to walk you a little bit about breeding and why breeding is important to think about all of these programs, all of these problems. So initially, breeding started many, many years ago. And innovation has been the cornerstone of breeding. What you see in this slide is how the initial breeders were thinking about the future. They were just selecting the quality of the produce that they wanted, the quality of the food that they wanted, and then they moved with innovation to new technology by implementing statistics, experimental designs, and then that was the second phase of breeding. Right now, we are in the third phase of breeding that you can see that is basically implementing molecular technology. This is not, I'm not talking about GMOs. I'm talking about using all of the techniques and technology that we have in other crops to apply it for coffee. Because we want better varieties, but we know that varieties take so much time in coffee to get released. It's up to 25 years to produce a variety. We cannot wait because climate change is right now. We have to do it faster. We have to do it better, and we have to do it more precise. For that reason, we need to use new technology, such as genomic technology, that can allow us to do the breeding faster, so we can release varieties earlier, and we can, again, tackle the problem of climate change. But why? Why varieties? Varieties delivers results. So basically, when we have varieties, you might guys have all varieties, you know, Bourbons, Típicas, those varieties that were highly susceptible to rust, and they were not really high producing. They have the quality though. But when you do a breeding, you are selecting from those good varieties to think about the new challenges, maybe a new disease that is not really here, maybe a new pest that is not really here, but you are crossing one parent with another parent and selecting those varieties and selecting, so you will gain in time and you will have better varieties over time to give to the growers. And that's what we think we need to do. We need to invest more in varieties that can reach the growers. But why we are very behind many other crops? So if we think about horticultural crops, they have such an investment in developing varieties that even when we compare coffee with strawberries, in coffee there is around 6,000 or almost 6,700 varieties released. That are varieties all over. And there are multiple breeding programs thinking about the new challenges, and they are investing on releasing every year and every often varieties that will impact the farmers. But with coffee, that's not the case. We only have 111 varieties so far. The varieties that were even developed many, many years ago. Varieties that are, so it's almost 60 times more in strawberries than coffee. But it's even more critical because the varieties were bred like 25 years ago. We need to think about releasing new varieties now. However, this is interesting because in other horticultural crops, we always get investments. So with WCR, we did an economic study with a research from a Michigan State University, researcher from Michigan State University. And we were looking at what is the gap if we consume coffee and if we think about the production and the climate change. what, what is the amount of money that we have to invest in research and development? So currently, the amount of money that is invested in research and development in coffee is only 150 million a year. But with this study, we found that we need to invest to keep the pace with climate change and the consumption and the demand of $567 million a year. So we have a gap of 452 million that we need to think about. How are we getting this investment? And this is an investment, it's a collaborative effort from multiple avenues. It's not only the industry, it's the government, it's the consuming countries, and it's the producing countries that need to invest in research and development to overcome all of the challenges that we are facing. So we need to close the gap of 452 million that we are under-resourced. So WCR, besides developing new varieties, is also advocating for this investment that comes from multiple consumer countries. So, but once again, we have a problem, we have limited resources. How can we really overcome these challenges with the system that we have right now? We have a system, and you guys talk about coffee, Costa Rican coffee being the best, maybe Colombian coffee being the best. I'm Colombian, sorry. But it's not that, there is always a competition between origins and always a competition to get the best coffee there. So there is always a competition even between national coffee institutes and between different institutions. So we need to come together, all of us, sit and have a collaborative effort to do the research. So in order to do that, we have to change the whole system. We have to change the innovation system. We have to change the technical and assistant system. We have to change the finances system. In that case, that's what WCR is doing right now. WCR started an innovation program to do breeding in a different way that was previously not known, which is basically to come together multiple stakeholders and multiple national coffee institutes and do breeding together. And this is the Innovea program that we released last year, where we bring 10 of our collaborators from different countries, and then we are injecting new diversity to do breeding together, because we cannot do everything on our own. So in this case, we have 10 different countries that are going to evaluate, and we are already evaluating multiple germoplasm that was crossed by WCR and is going to be evaluated at the local conditions. So the breeding can be done in those countries, in Latin America, in Africa, and Asia. So, but why is Innovea different? Why, if we are thinking about breeding? Many of the countries, especially the three big countries, Brazil, Vietnam, and Colombia, they've been doing an amazing job at releasing varieties and at releasing new materials, but they've been doing that on their own. There is not a collaborative effort. Here, we are changing that system. We are inviting our partners to do the breeding together. And why? Why we need to do that? Basically, because we need to inject new diversity. So we know that Arabica coffee is very limited in diversity. So we need to inject new diversity materials. So that's one way that we are doing with Innovea. We are injecting diversity that wasn't previously in any of the countries that we are working. So the other thing is we need to gain in understanding better how those materials will perform in different environments and different conditions. Remember, we are always thinking about the future of coffee, and the future of coffee is thinking about how these materials will perform under drought stress, will perform under heat stress, will perform under all of those challenges so we can do the breeding better. And that's what Innovea is about. It's about coming together and do the breeding better. So finally, I don't know if I have enough time, but my presentation is about coming together. We need to come together as an industry, as a National Coffee Institute, as any stakeholder that cares about coffee, that wants to continue drinking coffee, and we have to come from where we are right now to have a better future of coffee through innovation. And we understand that innovation can be done through breeding. So we do that, but not on our own. We have the industry supporting us. So WCR is an organization that does research because the financial support of 170 plus industry company members, that they believe in what we are doing, and they are working together in a collaborative effort to close that investment gap to do the research. And here there are a few of the brands that you guys are here already, that are supporting the work that we do, and as well as the different national coffee, the different national coffee institutes. So basically, the message here is we need to come together as an industry, we need to come together as a producing country, and we need to come together as a whole chain of coffee. Thank you.